Moses Annenberg, who was a publishing mogul in Philadelphia, came through my part of the world in Wyoming, stopped in Beulah and had trout. And he went up and bought part of the ranch right then. And then he came back and he built a huge lodge, and he hired an up-and-coming furniture Western designer named Thomas Molesworth. And this is all his designs. Eventually it came up for a sheriff's auction, and my stepfather bought it.
Examining this group of furniture, one immediately recognizes the distinctive hand of Thomas C. Molesworth, one of the most celebrated designers of Western-style furniture in the 20th century. Working from his workshop in Cody during the 1930s, Molesworth developed a uniquely American aesthetic that combined frontier imagery, rustic materials, and refined craftsmanship. These pieces were originally commissioned for the ranch lodge of Moses Annenberg, who built an elaborate retreat in Wyoming after discovering the exceptional trout streams in the region. The furniture dates to roughly 1933, when Molesworth produced a large commission for the Annenberg Ranch, reportedly comprising around 250 pieces. Characteristic features are immediately visible: richly burled Douglas fir, carved structural posts, and decorative motifs drawn from Western life. The smaller table, for example, displays a charming mining theme with a pickaxe, shovel, and gold pan inlaid into a green dyed leather top, likely elk hide. The larger coffee table shows similar craftsmanship, while the sofa and chair incorporate rugged forms balanced by comfortable upholstery. Even the lamp reflects Molesworth's unmistakable design language, with organic wooden poles and a natural mica shade that diffuses light warmly. While some upholstery has been replaced over time, the historical association with the Annenberg Ranch adds significant provenance. At auction, the sofa might bring $40,000 to $50,000. The chair, $30,000 to $40,000. Each table roughly $10,000 to $15,000.
So, do you have the lamp with you?
I do. And my daughter has it right here, my lovely daughter. Has it.
Wow. It's a wonderful early design. I love the pulls on it.
I know, aren't they something?
They're quintessential Molesworth. And the mica shade, I love the mica shade. I love how organic it is, how natural it is. It's so Western. This lamp is probably at auction worth $40,000 to $60,000.
Oh, amazing.
Great piece. It's a great piece.
What I know is from a copy of my grandmother's will, which says it had been in her family for 8 generations. So that makes me the 9th, I guess, or 10th generation.
Okay.
I know that it was in Philadelphia because the family was from Philadelphia. It was originally in the family known as Marcoux, who were Danish sugar plantation owners in St. Croix, and they came to Philadelphia in the 1770s. One of the members of the family was the founder of the First City Light Troop, which was the first militia, volunteer militia in the United States, so Revolutionary War period.
This object is a Philadelphia high chest of drawers dating to the Revolutionary period, around 1775 to 1780. High chests of this type were among the most sophisticated forms of American furniture in the 18th century, especially those produced in Philadelphia, which was one of the most important cabinet-making centers in colonial America. The piece shows many characteristics typical of Philadelphia craftsmanship. The drawer bottoms are made of white cedar, a material commonly used by cabinet makers in the region, while the internal construction reflects methods associated with local workshops. A particularly intriguing discovery is the chalk signature of Thomas Savage found on the drawer bottom. Savage was a sawyer in Philadelphia who supplied lumber to leading cabinet makers, including the renowned Benjamin Randolph, one of the most important furniture makers during the American Revolutionary era. Although an ornamental element on the front appears to be a Rococo Revival edition from about 1850, the rest of the structure retains its original bracket feet and overall 18th century design. Originally, the central decoration would likely have been a carved basket cartouche with flowers, a motif common in Philadelphia furniture of the period. What makes this chest especially fascinating is the historical context connecting the Marco family, Benjamin Randolph, and the Revolutionary War period in Philadelphia. The piece therefore represents not only exceptional craftsmanship, but also a remarkable survival of early American history and family heritage.
It's a $4,000 to $6,000 chest on chest. As a Philadelphia example, with the family history that you have and all those connections, at auction, I think you could add a zero, and I think it's more like 40 to 60,000. So this is a real treasure, and I'm so happy that you sent it in for us to see.
Well, thank you so much. This is wonderful.
It was purchased by my parents back in the very early 1960s. They purchased it as an art object and a piece of furniture. They lived in an apartment in New York City, and it hung literally bolted to the wall. It has no stand for years.
Was there ever any conversation about what they paid for it?
I wish I knew.
This wall-mounted credenza, also described as a buffet or sideboard, was designed and fabricated by the American studio furniture artist Paul Evans and is signed and dated 1968. Although functional as furniture, the piece is equally conceived as sculpture, reflecting Evans's experimental approach to metal furniture during the mid-20th century. Evans received training at several leading craft institutions in the United States and later studied at the influential Cranbrook Academy of Art. Afterward, he established his workshop in New Hope, Pennsylvania, where a team of skilled craftsmen helped fabricate his distinctive designs. During the 1960s, his studio became known for bold, welded metal furniture that blurred the line between decorative art and sculpture. This example belongs to Evans' deep relief style, characterized by thick, welded steel elements arranged in dramatic, sculptural patterns. The surface deliberately reveals hammering and welding marks, emphasizing the handcrafted nature of the work. Inside, the vivid red lacquered interior creates a striking contrast with the textured metal exterior, a color treatment Evans used in several works of this period. Although Evans's workshop produced limited series, pieces like this are often regarded as unique artistic creations. Evans continued designing until the 1980s and died in 1987 at the age of 55.
Any sense of the value of this?
I only recently found out that it was a Paul Evans. I assumed it was more valuable than I thought it was.
Right.
So I have no idea what it would be worth now.
Right. Well, we would put an auction estimate on this in the $25,000 to $35,000 range. So it is it's funky, right? I mean, you can really see all these welding marks on it. He wanted to show the handwork.
My understanding is it's probably a couple hundred years old. My great uncle was an antique dealer and he got it in the 50s. I've actually got a receipt from 53 when he bought it, and he bought it right here in Denver. I don't know what kind of condition it was in when he got it. It's been moved basically from his house, I think, to a shop that my brother had, and he's the one that inherited it from him. And then to my house because he didn't want to be, I guess, pressured into selling it because he wanted to keep it. And I've had it for about 15 years in my possession.
This object is an elaborate Austrian display cabinet created around the late 19th to early 20th century, most likely produced in workshops around Vienna. At first glance, it might be mistaken for an older French piece, especially because of the richly decorated porcelain plaques that resemble Limoges enamel work. But closer examination of the construction reveals a different origin. The cabinet itself is heavily ornamented with ormolu mounts and cast figurative decorations, giving it an impressive and theatrical appearance. These gilded bronze elements frame a series of hand-painted enamel plaques, each depicting mythological scenes rendered in vivid color and intricate detail. The plaques were the true focal point of the design, intended to attract attention and demonstrate artistic craftsmanship. Structurally, the cabinet reflects typical characteristics of Austrian furniture from around 1900. The internal construction and secondary woods, some of which are painted black to imitate age, indicate that the cabinet making itself was not the primary emphasis. Instead, the design prioritized decorative impact rather than everyday practicality. Pieces like this were often created primarily for display and prestige, meant to stand prominently in a room and impress visitors rather than serve as heavily used furniture. The combination of sculptural bronze mounts, colorful enamel plaques, and grand scale reflects the decorative tastes of the fin de siècle period, when richly ornamented objects were highly fashionable in Central Europe.
In an as-is condition, and many collectors like to do the restorations themselves. They don't like to buy a piece that's already been restored. So if you put $10,000 of restoration work in this, would you necessarily get $10,000 back? Hard to say. Hard to say.
Well, thank you.
I brought in a Chippendale chest on chest that was built somewhere in the late 1700s, and it was passed down through my family on my father's side. I come from an old Philadelphia family, and it was built in Philadelphia.
Okay. And you had an appraisal done 6 years ago in 2005, is that right?
Yeah, it was probably an appraisal from a previous appraisal, so the people didn't see it, and it was appraised at $20,000.
This is a Chippendale-style chest-on-chest made of tiger maple, produced in New England around 1800, most likely in southeastern Massachusetts or Rhode Island. Although it had long been believed to come from a Philadelphia family tradition, the construction details and materials clearly point to a New England origin at the very end of the Chippendale period in America. The cabinet is built from tiger maple, a figured maple prized for its dramatic striped grain and durability. Collectors value this wood highly, and in this piece the grain is especially visible across the moldings and drawer fronts. The surface shows a deep, mellow, original patina, suggesting that the chest has remained largely untouched over time, a feature many collectors appreciate. At the top appears a carved fan ornament, a decorative element often seen on late Chippendale furniture. The chest also retains attractive period brass hardware, although one knob may have been replaced from the original teardrop style. The overall form, known as a chest-on-chest, consists of two stacked drawer sections that create both height and generous storage, a popular design in late 18th century American homes. Close examination of the structure shows that the upper and lower sections share the same construction methods, confirming that the piece was originally made as one unit rather than assembled later. The feet and internal glue blocks also remain original, reinforcing its authenticity as a well-preserved example of late 18th century New England furniture.
The market has changed a lot in the last 6 years, and a high-style country piece like this, the market has gone down a bit. So the appropriate appraisal price at that time would have been about $35,000.
Oh, wow.
So it was a little bit low, but it's a great chest-on-chest.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing it in.
Yeah, sure.
Are actually from my parents who bought them in the 70s. They bought 2 of the armchairs and 4 of the regular chairs, but never got a table. We went up to the workshop with them when we were kids, and I was very impressed with the workshop. So when I grew up, I knew I wanted to buy a Nakashima table. And so 20 years later, I was able to do that. And so the table is from 1990 or so, and the chairs are from the 70s.
Right, right.
Part of the process of buying from them is going out and picking out your wood. Mira will put water on it so you can see the grain. It's really terrific.
So,
examining this dining set, one immediately encounters the legacy of George Nakashima, one of the most influential figures in 20th century American studio furniture. Working from his celebrated workshop in New Hope, Nakashima championed the philosophy that wood itself should guide the design. Rather than imposing rigid forms, he emphasized the natural grain, live edges, and structural beauty of native hardwoods such as American black walnut. The chairs in this group date to the 1970s and bear Nakashima's signature. Known as the new chair, their design draws inspiration from the Windsor tradition, with slender spindles rising through the crest rail and carefully balanced proportions. These examples combine walnut crest rails with hickory spindles, illustrating Nakashima's preference for honest materials and visible craftsmanship. The table, however, belongs to the next generation of the studio. After George Nakashima's death in 1990, his daughter, Mira Nakashima, continued the family workshop and preserved his aesthetic philosophy. This piece, a conoid table made around 1990, features a spectacular slab of American black walnut with expressive grain and free edges on both sides. The 6 butterfly, or dovetail, inlays stabilizing natural cracks are both structural and decorative, a hallmark of the Nakashima style. Interestingly, Mira's interpretation often includes more of these inlays than her father typically used, reflecting a subtle evolution of the original design language.
For auction, but because it's Mira, her market has not really come into the secondary market quite yet. I would say that this is probably more in the $8,000 to $12,000 range if you were to purchase this at auction.
Okay.
So now these side chairs will be bringing around $2,000 a piece, where the armchairs are probably in the $3,000 a piece range.
To me by a friend. I believe it's a tansu, based on the design. But what I love about this chest is all its secret compartments. And I design and build contemporary furniture and contemporary tansu, and I build secret compartments into everything that I build. The card that came with it said it was a 1740s Queen Anne apothecary chest, purported to be used for nobility.
This object is a Chinese apothecary chest from the early 18th century, made by a Chinese cabinet maker between 1720 and 1750, most likely in Guangzhou, the major southern port that served as a center for international trade. The chest was probably produced for a wealthy foreign client living or working in the trading community there. The cabinet is crafted from huanghuali wood, a highly valued hardwood traditionally used in fine Chinese furniture during the Ming and Qing dynasties. Known for its strength and striking grain, this wood was rarely used outside China, which strongly indicates its Chinese origin. The hinged construction allows the piece to close into a compact box, a practical feature that made it portable and secure. The design is especially notable for its complex system of hidden compartments. At first glance, the front appears to contain many small drawers, but several of these are actually sliding panels or disguised compartments. Some sections open to reveal small interior boxes, while others divide into multiple concealed storage spaces. This clever arrangement suggests it functioned as an apothecary chest, used by a pharmacist to organize medicines, herbs, and valuable ingredients. Decorative European Baroque-style metal mounts reinforce the corners and front plate. Their Rococo-inspired ornament suggests the chest was made for a European customer, possibly Dutch, reflecting the cultural exchange that took place in Guangzhou's international trading environment during the 18th century.
It's worth, I think, conservatively $8,000 to $12,000 at auction.
Wow. That's amazing. I can't believe such a gift.
If they were Chinese mounts, not these European mounts, this would be worth $50,000 to $70,000 at auction.
Oh, wow.
My mother gave me this in the mid-70s. I had been living in Africa and I came back and had no furniture. And she gave it to me as I was trying to furnish a house. My sister tells me that she gave it to me because it says Joe on there.
And where did she get it?
Someone gave it to her.
Just gave it.
In Phoenix, and I do not know who gave it to her. Once I was told that it was from Pennsylvania. I was also told that the J-O and E-O may be initials of a couple that was getting married and that it was a marriage chest.
Exactly.
This Chester County tall chest, made around 1796 to 1797, reflects the refined regional furniture tradition of Chester County, Pennsylvania, about 25 miles from Philadelphia. Cabinet makers in this area were influenced by the sophisticated style of Philadelphia workshops while maintaining their own local character shaped by English, Welsh, and German settlers. The chest is constructed primarily from American black walnut, a durable hardwood native to the region and prized for its deep color and fine grain. Decorative inlays are crafted from holly wood, whose pale tone contrasts sharply with the darker walnut surface. At the upper section appears an elegant ogee molding, beneath which the initials J-O and E-O are inlaid together with the date. Such inscriptions were often used to commemorate marriages, suggesting the chest may have been created to celebrate a couple's union at the end of the 18th century. The design features original chip and nail brass hardware and several graduated drawers with thumb-molded edges. The lowest drawer rests on distinctive Chester County ogee bracket feet with prominent spurs, a recognizable regional trait. Another remarkable element lies in the internal structure. What appears to be a decorative panel actually forms part of a concealed locking mechanism. When the main drawer is opened and the hidden spring latch is triggered, it reveals a secret compartment, a clever detail demonstrating the ingenuity of early American cabinet makers.
This piece, because of all the great things it has, would be estimated conservatively at auction at $20,000 to $30,000 on it. I mean, and that's a conservative estimate. Because of all those things, it could bring much more than that.
That's nice.
We got it at an estate sale. I really liked the front of it, and that was what attracted me to it. I like the little flowers here.
Okay.
And I knew it had some bumps and bruises, but I thought it was still pretty.
And how much did you pay for it when you bought it?
We paid $50.
How many years ago was that?
That was in 2008, so 5 years ago.
This small chest represents a rare example of American Federal-style furniture from the late 18th century. Based on its form and construction, it was likely made around 1795 in Charleston, one of the most important centers of cabinet making in the early United States. The object is known as a sugar chest, a specialized form of furniture designed to store valuable sugar loaves during a period when sugar was considered a luxury commodity and often kept under lock. Opening the lid reveals a deep storage well where the sugar would be placed, secured by a lock to prevent theft or casual access. The craftsmanship is particularly striking. The chest is constructed of highly figured mahogany, far more decorative than the typical mahogany seen on Federal furniture. The lid is framed with intricate banding, including herringbone patterns and contrasting woods such as cherry and possibly ebony, creating the effect of a carefully composed picture frame. The proportions are delicate and refined, standing on slender feet that give the piece an almost floating appearance. Similar framing details appear on the sides and even on the back, indicating that the chest was meant to be displayed prominently rather than placed against a wall. Although the handles and a central escutcheon appear to be later additions, the chest remarkably retains what seems to be its original late 18th century surface.
Do you have any idea what this is worth today?
I have no idea.
I would put an auction estimate on this table today of $20,000 to $30,000.
Really? That's crazy. That's a good find. We'll keep it.
This was at my mom's house. She got it from her mom, who bought it at an auction in Pasadena in the 1930s. That's all I know.
This is a piece that any student of early American furniture would recognize as being made in Boston.
This piece is an American Queen Anne lowboy, or dressing table, made in Boston around 1750 to 1760. Furniture of this type was typically placed in a bedchamber, and often paired with a taller companion piece known as a highboy, though such sets rarely remain together today. The table is made of walnut, a favored wood in mid-18th century American cabinet making for its durability and rich tone. What makes this example particularly notable is its high degree of originality. Many pieces of this age have replaced tops or hardware after centuries of use, but this one retains its original brass pulls, confirmed by the handmade nuts and the single set of mounting holes inside the drawers. It also preserves its original drop finials, decorative details that are frequently lost on similar furniture. Several stylistic elements firmly connect the piece to Boston craftsmanship. The upper drawer features a scooped front with a carved fan motif, a hallmark of Boston Queen Anne furniture. This carving is echoed in the curved apron beneath the drawer and complemented by elegant cabriole legs. Another regional characteristic is the beaded molding attached to the case rather than the drawer front, a detail commonly associated with Boston workshops. The only major condition issue is sun bleaching, which has lightened the walnut surface over time. The darker color inside the drawers reveals the wood's original tone. Even so, the table remains a fine and authentic example of mid-18th century Boston furniture design.
This is a piece that, at auction, I would estimate $18,000 to $20,000.
Excuse me? Wow. Wow, that's amazing. I had no idea.
This is our family Philadelphia highboy. My great-grandmother was a Quaker. She was born in 1850. I think it's older than that, but I don't know how much older.
This is a Philadelphia Queen Anne flat-top high chest of drawers, likely made in Philadelphia between 1730 and 1750 during the transition from the William and Mary style to the more elegant Queen Anne period. Furniture from this moment began to move away from heavy forms towards softer curves and more refined proportions. The chest is crafted from figured maple, often called tiger maple, a native North American wood valued for its dramatic striped grain. This striking pattern is a natural irregularity in the wood and can only be discovered once the tree is cut, making it highly prized by cabinet makers. The lively tiger stripe figure across the drawer fronts creates a strong visual movement that draws the eye up the cabinet. The drawers retain bright-cut engraved brass hardware, reflecting the stylistic shift from William and Mary brasses toward Queen Anne decoration. Inside the drawers, chalk numbers and written notes remain visible on the drawer backs and sides. These marks show how the craftsman carefully organized each component before assembly, a common 18th century workshop practice. Below the case, a graceful cyma-curved apron flows into elegant cabriole legs, ending in bold Spanish or brush feet, a relatively uncommon form. Although the surface has been gently refinished and some hardware replaced, and several legs have lost their knee returns, the surviving details still demonstrate the high level of skill and aesthetic care typical of early Philadelphia cabinet making.
If it were to come to auction, I would put a conservative estimate of $15,000 to $30,000 on it. So not bad.
Not bad. I thought it was cherry. I learned a lot.
Tiger maple.
I learned a ton.
This is a little chest that's come down in my husband's family, and we don't know exactly which side, but they were from the New England area. Medford, Cambridge, Boston, in that area.
This object is a Queen Anne miniature slant front desk made of maple, produced in Massachusetts around 1750 to 1760. At first glance, it appears to be a small chest of drawers, But when the supporting loopers are pulled out and the front panel is lowered, it opens into a functional writing desk. Miniature desks like this were often created by cabinet makers as demonstration pieces intended to showcase craftsmanship, proportion, and design to potential clients. Rather than being everyday furniture, they highlighted the maker's technical ability in a compact and elegant form. The desk is made from maple, a wood widely used in New England furniture for its durability and subtle grain. Its graceful proportions and decorative details reflect the Queen Anne style, which dominated American furniture design in the mid-18th century. The piece also retains its original Queen Anne brass hardware, an important element that helps confirm the period. One of the most remarkable features is the original surface and patina, showing layers of wear and natural discoloration developed over centuries of use. These traces of age add depth and authenticity to the object, making it a charming example of mid-18th century New England furniture craftsmanship.
I would appraise it for insurance purposes now in the $15,000 to $20,000 range. Yeah, it's truly a gem.
Will be passed down in our family and never leave.
That's great.
This furniture is a Frank Lloyd Wright Henderson Heritage collection that my parents bought back in the 50s.
Do you remember what year in the 50s they bought it?
I think it was around 1955.
Looking at this group of furniture, it is immediately recognizable as part of the Heritage Henderson collection designed by Frank Lloyd Wright in 1955. Wright, widely regarded as one of the most influential architects of the 20th century, was known for translating his architectural philosophy into furniture and interior design. Earlier in his career, he worked within the arts and crafts tradition, but by the mid-1950s, his work had fully embraced modernism. And this collection reflects that shift toward bold geometric forms and integrated design. The line was produced by Henredon Furniture Industries and released as a commercial furniture range, rather than the custom-built pieces Wright usually created for his architectural commissions. As a result, it represents one of the rare moments when Wright's design language became accessible to a broader public. The series was produced only briefly, largely during 1955, which contributes to its desirability among collectors of mid-century modern design. The pieces in this set illustrate Wright's architectural sensibility. The strong horizontal lines, geometric motifs carved into the wooden panels, and the dramatic slate top on the table all echo the structural clarity found in Wright's buildings. The slate surface adds both visual weight and a tactile natural element, reinforcing Wright's long-standing interest in integrating natural materials into design. Even the upholstery, with original fabric preserved beneath later coverings, reflects the period aesthetic.
I think the three pieces at auction would bring somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great furniture. And again, I think it really tells the tale of mid-century design.
Mm-hmm. Well, we all three kids hit our chin on that slate table, so it's not going anywhere.
At the outbreak of World War II, the French consulate in Boston was called back home, and they weren't allowed to take their furniture because it was wartime. So places in Boston took these on consignment, their pieces of furniture, and my grandmother bought it there.
Well, it's interesting that you say that the French consulate had this in their residence because the quality of this piece is superb. It is a vitrine by Paul Sormani.
This object is a French vitrine cabinet made by the renowned Parisian cabinet maker Paul Sormani, dating to around 1890. Sormani opened his workshop in Paris in 1867 and became well known for producing luxury furniture inspired by the finest designs of the 18th century French court, particularly those from the reign of Louis XVI. The piece is identified by the maker's mark bearing Sormani, Paris, along with the address of his workshop. Sormani was celebrated for reviving classical French furniture styles with exceptional craftsmanship, often replicating the elegance of earlier royal furniture, while incorporating the advanced techniques and materials available in the 19th century. This cabinet is specifically a vitrine à demi-lieu, meaning it was designed to be displayed in the center of a room rather than against a wall. Unlike earlier cabinets that had solid backs, this vitrine features glass panels on all four sides, allowing valuable objects inside to be viewed from every direction. The design reflects the Louis XVI style, visible in the straight, tapered legs, delicate proportions, and refined decorative motifs. The cabinet is richly ornamented with ormolu bronze mounts, including decorative panels featuring small putty figures and elegant bronze galleries at both the top and base. The body is veneered in kingwood and fruitwood, creating a striking contrast of light and dark grain.
I would say that as an auction estimate, we probably would estimate it in the range of, say, $12,000 to $18,000.
Wow.
If you are intending to keep it in your home, you might want to think of an insurance value, say, in the $25,000 range.
I think we should.
Yeah.
As far as I know, it's been in my family for many, many years and goes back to my sixth great-grandfather, who was the president of Harvard College.
President of Harvard. What was his name?
Edward Holyoke.
So there's a building named after him? At least one?
Quite a few things named after him.
This piece is a tiger maple chest of drawers made in Massachusetts in the late 1700s, representing the refined craftsmanship of early American furniture. Cabinet makers in New England frequently used figured maple because of its durability and the dramatic striped pattern known as tiger maple, which provided natural decorative beauty without heavy carving. The chest displays several characteristics typical of 18th century Massachusetts furniture. The molded top, compact proportions, and shaped feet reflect regional design traditions. The top is constructed from multiple joined boards, a common solution when working with highly figured wood. Over time, the wooden case has shrunk slightly, causing the drawer sides to extend a bit beyond the frame, a normal structural change seen in authentic furniture of this age. The hardware appears original and stylistically dates to around the 1790s, which helps confirm the period of manufacture. What makes this chest especially intriguing is the feature hidden inside the top drawer. It contains a folding writing surface and a sliding compartment, intended for storing papers, quill pens, or small writing tools. Such a writing arrangement is rarely incorporated into a chest of drawers, making this example particularly unusual.
It is a valuable piece of furniture. At auction, it would be $10,000 to $20,000.
Thank you very much.
I brought what I was told, a blanket closet that was done in pyrography. I think that's the name of the craft. And I don't know who did it. And it's something that I got in 1987 at an antique annex.
This object is a pyrographic decorated wardrobe made of western red cedar, produced in the late 19th century, probably between 1880 and 1900. Pyrography is a decorative technique in which an artisan heats a metal tip and burns designs directly into the wood surface, a craft that became particularly popular during the Victorian era and continued into the early 20th century. The wardrobe itself reflects typical late 19th century cabinet construction, visible in the hardware and the exposed through tenon joinery inside the door. However, the decorative program appears slightly later, around 1910 to 1915, and shows strong influence from the Art Nouveau movement. Flowing floral motifs trail across the surface, and on the side appears the figure of a graceful woman surrounded by foliage, reminiscent of the elegant poster designs created by Alphonse Mucha. The most compelling feature lies on the front panels. 10 carved panels depict winged children, 7 of them with wings, suggesting angelic imagery often associated with remembrance or memorial themes. Faint names can be seen on some of the children's foreheads, hinting that the artist may have been commemorating specific individuals. One particularly intriguing detail is the unfinished lower section. 2 figures were only sketched in pencil and never burned into the wood, suggesting that the artist may have stopped the work unexpectedly.
If we were to place an auction estimate on it, we would say $8,000 to $12,000.
It's wonderful.
Now, you bought it at an antique shop.
Yeah.
If I were to go to New York and see this in a retail setting, I think you could probably easily see a price tag of $15,000 to $20,000.
That's great.
Well, I got it, I think, in 2007 from a resale shop in Boise, and it was from the estate of Joe and Catherine Albertson, and they founded the Albertsons grocery store chain. This was after Mrs. Albertson died.
Did they tell you anything about it, its age, where it was made?
No.
All right, fair enough.
This object is a Rococo serpentine chest of drawers, dating from about 1750 to 1760, likely made somewhere in continental Europe. The chest reflects the dramatic elegance of the Rococo style, a design movement popular in the mid-18th century characterized by fluid curves, bold decoration, and an emphasis on visual richness. The most striking feature is the deep serpentine front, formed from a single block of solid walnut that has been carefully carved to create the sweeping curved facade. The natural walnut grain runs horizontally across the front, confirming that the shape was sculpted from one piece rather than assembled from separate boards. This type of construction required exceptional craftsmanship and contributes greatly to the piece's visual impact. The chest has graduated drawers, large decorative handles, and strong locking mechanisms, suggesting it was originally intended as a formal storage piece for valuables. On the sides, the presence of large hand-cut dovetails further supports its 18th century origin, as these joinery techniques were typical of high-quality furniture from the period.
It's a great piece. I think at auction it would bring between $7,000 and $10,000.
Wow.
So you're making a pretty good living at these estate sales.
It has been in my family 5 generations. It was brought from Roxborough, Scotland to Canada by a sea captain, Richard Christie, who died at sea in 1830. My great-grandfather bought it at his widow's auction for $20 and a cow.
This sideboard reflects the refined craftsmanship of an early 19th century cabinet maker, working within the traditions of neoclassicism, closely associated with the elegant furniture designs popularized by Thomas Sheraton. Based on stylistic features and construction, the piece was likely produced in the early decades of the 19th century, probably in either England or Scotland. The cabinet maker clearly focused on symmetry and visual balance. The arrangement of mirrors, sliding doors, and decorative panels creates a harmonious composition that feels both orderly and sophisticated. Interestingly, some elements are intentionally deceptive. The upper drawers appear functional but are actually false fronts designed purely for decoration. Meanwhile, the projecting base section that might look like a simple panel actually contains the working drawers. The variety of materials used is particularly impressive. Crossbanding made from mahogany veneer with delicate ebony stringing frames, panels of bird's-eye maple, while the drawer fronts are tiger maple. The main structure appears to be cherry wood, with a dramatic wavy grain that resembles currents of water. Such combinations of veneers and hardwoods demonstrate the cabinet maker's technical skill and access to high-quality materials. One notable alteration is visible along one side of the piece, where the sideboard was once cut and later reattached with metal reinforcement at the back. Although this change affects the condition, the craftsmanship remains evident throughout.
Somewhere in the area of maybe $7,500. In an auction situation, this is the sort of furniture that can be bought so reasonably. It could be bought for a few $1,000s, which is preposterous because we're looking at a masterful piece of work, handmade with extraordinary materials. We can only hope that we both last long enough to see formal dining come back in style, because this deserves a great future.
Actually, the auction was only 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yes. I purchased it for $375, which was lower than what I anticipated it would go.
Did anyone bid against you?
Oh, the bidding started at $50.
$50?
Yes.
And you thought you were going to get it for $50 at first, or what?
Oh, no. I thought that people would like it as much as I did, but
Okay.
apparently they didn't. I generally write on the auction sheet how much I'll go to so I
Right.
don't go over.
Mhm.
I put 800. As I kept thinking about it, I put 1,000.
Okay.
And then I changed it one more time to 1,100, but I didn't have to.
This object is an early 20th century American pyrographic wood panel created during the Art Nouveau period, when wood-burning decoration was a popular artistic craft. Pyrography is a technique in which images are burned directly into wood using a heated metal tool, producing rich lines and shading similar to drawing. At the center of the composition is the American flag, carefully burned into the wood surface. Surrounding it are deeply carved trees, which create a strong three-dimensional effect and demonstrate that the artist combined carving with the burning technique. This mixture of methods reflects a high level of craftsmanship. The imagery strongly emphasizes American patriotism. On one side appear the Liberty Bell and Uncle Sam holding the American flag, both well-known national symbols. The composition also includes several international flags, such as those of China, Korea, and Japan, suggesting a global awareness typical of the early 20th century. A key detail that allows the piece to be dated precisely is the 4-6-star American flag shown in the design. The United States used this flag only between 1908 and 1912, providing a very narrow production period. Traces of original color dye and gilding remain visible on the surface, especially on the stars, indicating that much of the original finish has survived.
A retail value on this, if someone were to present it at a show as a patriotic piece of Americana, would be about $6,000.
Oh, really?
You did pretty well.
Oh, for a $375 investment.
Not bad, not bad. You did pretty well.
When my wife and I were traveling across the country and we stopped at a show, and we collect dolls, and this is, we thought, a miniature chest that would fit in our collection. I was told by the dealer that it dated around 1815.
This miniature chest reflects the refined cabinet-making traditions of the early 19th century Federal style period in the United States, most likely produced in the furniture-making center of Philadelphia. The design shows several distinctive regional characteristics, including the serpentine drawer fronts and the elegantly arched apron with a small central spur, features often associated with Philadelphia craftsmanship of the early 1800s. Another notable detail is the presence of a Quaker lock, also known as a spring lock, located beneath the upper drawers. This clever mechanism allowed the drawers to be secured without the expense of a mechanical lock, demonstrating the practical ingenuity of cabinet makers in the mid-Atlantic region. The chest retains its original cast brass hardware and delicate banding along the drawer fronts. Construction details reveal sides assembled from multiple small pieces of wood, while the secondary wood appears to be white pine with visible knots. Such features suggest that the piece may have been created as an apprentice exercise or possibly an after-hours project within a cabinet shop. What is particularly impressive is the careful reduction of the proportions from a full-size serpentine chest to this miniature form, preserving balance and elegance. Despite some refinishing and minor repairs to the feet, the craftsmanship remains evident.
If I were to bring this to auction today, I would put $6,000 to $9,000 on it.
Oh.
But if it were in an older state, dirtier, drier, grungier surface, you'd be looking at maybe $15,000 to $20,000.
Well, I didn't touch it, but somebody obviously did.
It's a piece of furniture I've had for about 2 years now, I guess. I bought it from a couple that was going through a divorce. They needed the cash, they were ready to unload, and I liked the piece, and they made a deal with me.
So did they give you any specifics about where they thought it was from?
They thought it was from the East Coast somewhere.
This piece is a federal-style bow-front server made of mahogany with rosewood and birchwood inlay, likely produced in Salem, Massachusetts around 1810. Servers of this type were elegant dining room furniture used for displaying and storing tableware, and they represent the refined taste of early American households during the Federal period. The cabinet displays several distinctive features associated with the Salem cabinet maker William Hooke. The top corners project outward and are decorated with small turned rondels, leading down to slender curlinettes with carved water leaf capitals and reeded legs. These details are characteristic of Hooke's workshop and reflect the light, vertical proportions admired by collectors of Federal furniture. The most striking feature is the sunburst veneer design across the drawer front. Alternating panels of dark mahogany and flame birch create a dramatic contrast, while a delicate fan inlay sits at the base of the pattern. Cabinet makers achieved the shaded effect by applying hot sand to the veneer edges, producing subtle tonal transitions that enhance the visual depth. Another unusual detail is the careful finishing on the back and sides, including decorative veneer panels and fully carved capitals. In many period pieces, these areas were left unfinished because the furniture stood against a wall, so this extra effort highlights the maker's craftsmanship.
If this piece were to come to auction, I would put an estimate of $5,000 to $8,000 on it.
Wow, wow.
It's all about this wonderful sunburst. If this was just a bow front chest of drawers, you'd be looking at about a $1,000 chest.
Great, well, thank you.
Well, thank you
Appreciate
for coming to the Roadshow.
I inherited this from my aunt who had an antique shop in Muskogee, Oklahoma. But she purchased this from a Mrs. Rosenbaum in Fort Worth, who was, apparently she purchased a lot of her furniture from there, and the lady acquired it from all over. She put it in the shop for a little while, and then she decided to take it home. And I inherited it as a result when she passed away 10 years ago.
So how long do you think it was in your family?
Oh, I think she'd probably had it about 15 years.
This object is a Queen Anne-style cross-banded burl walnut cabinet with mirrored doors, made in England in the early 20th century. Its design imitates furniture that was fashionable in England between 1720 and 1740, during the early Georgian period. When the Queen Anne style emphasized elegant proportions and refined decorative details, the cabinet displays several classic features associated with that tradition. The upper section is crowned with a shaped pediment, while the doors contain mirrors framed by richly figured burl walnut veneer with cross-banding. On the sides are candle slides, a practical element often found in early 18th century cabinets, allowing candles to be placed beside the cabinet when opened. Decorative batwing brass handles also echo the hardware styles commonly used in the period. Closer examination, however, reveals that the piece was not actually made in the 18th century. Furniture of that age typically shows clear structural aging, such as shrinkage in the moldings, repairs to the feet, or replaced veneers. In this cabinet, the surfaces remain unusually intact, and the coloring on the back indicates later staining techniques used to simulate age. Differences in the thickness of the drawer parts and inconsistencies in the dovetail joints further suggest modern workshop construction. Although created later than the period it imitates, the cabinet reflects the lasting influence of English Queen Anne design and remains an attractive example of early 20th century revival furniture.
If this piece were actually an 18th century original, I think you'd probably be looking at something in the range of $40,000 to $60,000 for the auction estimate.
I'll take it home and enjoy it now and won't worry about damaging
Taking it home is the perfect thing to do with it.
When we bought it 37 years ago, it was the very first antique we ever bought in the French Quarter. And so it was in a storeroom, and it was very dirty and full of cobwebs. And actually, when the salesperson brought me in the storeroom, the light went out, so I saw it by flashlight. The man didn't know when it would be cleaned up and back on the floor, and he didn't know how much it was. He said that he thought that it was English. So 6 months later, we were back. It was all cleaned up. It was in the shop window when we walked by.
This object is a Georgian-style secretary bookcase made in England around 1900, created as a revival interpretation of 18th century furniture. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, cabinet makers frequently reproduced earlier Georgian designs to satisfy the continued demand for classical English interiors. The piece combines several elements associated with the Georgian period, when furniture design in Britain evolved under the reigns of 4 monarchs named George. Rather than copying a single historical model, this cabinet blends multiple stylistic references into one composition. Compared with original 18th century examples, its more compact scale reflects the needs of modern homes at the turn of the 20th century. The facade is decorated with rich burl veneer, creating dramatic swirling grain patterns across the surface. A band of marquetry inlay runs across the front, while the vertical sides are framed by classical pilasters, architectural features inspired by Renaissance and ancient Roman design. At the center appears a decorative cartouche with classical motifs, reinforcing the piece's homage to traditional European ornament. As a secretary bookcase, the furniture originally served both as a writing desk and a display cabinet for books and documents. Although produced later than the Georgian era it imitates, the cabinet remains a refined example of historical revival craftsmanship and reflects the enduring influence of classical English furniture design.
I would probably be estimating in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. But
you have ruined my day.
I'm sorry.
That is amazing.
Yes, but we say it's a great time to buy this kind of thing.
3 to 5.
Yes.
I had been collecting a lot of smaller school cabinets in Maryland area, Pennsylvania area. Went on vacation to California, went into an antique shop, and there it was. And I had to have it.
This colorful advertising thread cabinet was produced for the well-known silk thread manufacturer Belding Brothers and Company, whose products were widely distributed in American general stores during the late 19th century. Cabinets like this functioned both as storage and advertising displays, allowing shopkeepers to organize and present spools of silk thread in many small drawers arranged across the front. The design reflects the popular Eastlake style, a movement associated with the English designer Charles Eastlake and fashionable around the 1880s. The cabinet combines several contrasting woods that create a lively visual effect: oak framing around the door, cherry pilasters along the front, and mahogany drawer fronts. When filled with brightly colored thread spools, the drawers would have formed a vivid rainbow display that attracted customers' attention. The decorative Eastlake drawer pulls with scalloped details are made of chrome-plated brass and enhance the cabinet's Victorian character. Over time, several modifications were made, The original interior wooden shelves were replaced with glass, and a mirror and light were added for display purposes. The clock mounted on the top was produced by W.M. L. Gilbert Clock Company around the 1930s, slightly later than the cabinet itself. Even with these changes, the piece remains a charming example of 19th century advertising furniture.
But with those problems, I would say that mostly this has no problems. It's really charming, it's eye-catching, a lovely piece. You're probably looking at an auction estimate in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. If I saw this in a shop today, I would expect maybe $4,000 for it.
Okay, thank you.
We got it when we were in England in 1968 to 1969. Bought it at a local antique shop for £15, which is probably the equivalent of $25 to $30 American money.
This Victorian oak sideboard reflects the aesthetic and cultural atmosphere of late 19th century Britain during the reign of Queen Victoria. After the death of her husband Prince Albert in 1861, a prolonged national mourning deeply influenced decorative tastes. Furniture from this period often adopted darker tones and heavier forms. Oak pieces such as this were frequently treated with ammonia fuming to darken the naturally warm golden color of the wood, producing the deep, somber finish associated with Victorian interiors and evoking the appearance of medieval English furnishings. The sideboard itself is a substantial handcrafted example rather than a machine-made product. Its solid oak structure features detailed carving and strong architectural elements typical of Victorian dining room furniture. Particularly notable are the twisted front columns known in England as Barley twist columns. These spiraling forms are inspired by the historic Solomonic column, a design long associated with classical European architecture, including examples found in the Vatican. The dramatic vertical lines of these columns add movement and emphasize the historic revival style that was popular in the period.
Any idea of the value today on a piece like this?
I don't think it's worth that much because it's a large piece. I would hope I might be happily surprised.
In the scheme of things, I would say if we saw this at auction, we might be estimating it in the $2,000 to $3,000 range.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought.
My husband and I bought it from a picker about 2 years ago. We just loved it, and we loved the inlay, we loved the look of it, the size, pretty much everything about it.
Do you collect things like this?
We do, especially Southern, Tennessee and Southern pieces.
And when you bought it, what did they say about the piece?
He just said he had got it from, I think, a house in North Carolina.
This piece is a classic Southern American sugar chest, a distinctive furniture form commonly made in the early 19th century, especially in regions such as Kentucky and Tennessee. Sugar chests were designed to store sugar, which was once a valuable household commodity, and they often included interior dividers for different types of sugar. Examples like this typically date to the 1820s or 1830s, and have long been sought after by collectors of Southern furniture. The chest is constructed primarily of cherry wood, with a butternut bottom board, a secondary wood occasionally found in furniture from Kentucky. Structural details such as slightly irregular wooden pegs and handcrafted joinery suggest that the basic structure of the chest is consistent with an early period example. The decorative inlay on the surface, however, raises some questions. During the 1920s and 1930s, many plain sugar chests were enhanced with added inlay to increase their appeal and market value. The pattern seen here closely resembles those later decorative additions rather than typical early 19th century designs. Evidence of refinishing inside the case also suggests that the surface has been altered.
I would think at auction, maybe $8,000 to $12,000. The perfect scenario, which is original inlay, original finish, I think you could expect $15,000 or $20,000 at auction. That's why they add the inlay. It adds value.
Right.
If you went to market with this piece, I think people would be hesitant because it's guilty until proven innocent.
Okay.
My parents bought it in 1975. They remodeled after the tornado in 1974, and so they needed a piece, and apparently Daddy found it at an antique shop down in Lebanon, Kentucky. I understand that he paid $500 for it.
This piece is an early 19th century American mahogany sideboard, featuring a built-in butler's desk concealed within the central drawer. When the front panel drops down, it transforms from a dining room storage cabinet into a small writing desk, a clever multifunctional feature occasionally found in refined household furniture of the period. Stylistically, the sideboard likely dates to around 1825, a time when American cabinet making was transitioning from the decorative elegance of the federal style toward the heavier classical influence of the American Empire style. The design emphasizes broad, flat surfaces covered in beautifully figured mahogany veneer rather than elaborate inlay decoration, reflecting changing tastes of the 1820s. Earlier sideboards around 1800 typically had tall, slender legs and intricate inlays, while later examples adopted more solid proportions. The peaked pediment at the top recalls the triangular form of the Parthenon, revealing the strong influence of classical Greek architecture on American furniture design during this period. Construction details also provide clues about its origin. The use of poplar and white pine as secondary woods is common in furniture produced in the American South and the Ohio Valley region. Combined with its stylistic features, the sideboard was likely made in Kentucky, although similar forms were produced in nearby states such as Virginia and Tennessee.
I could definitely see it priced that way in a shop. I think on the auction block, it would bring less. It's probably more like a $1,000 to $2,000 piece. But think about the value that you get for that. I think time will bear it out. It does make good tornado shelter. You can always like get in the cabinet. This is a very, as we carry this out here, it's a very solid piece of furniture.
When I was first married, which was about 100 years ago, I moved into an older neighborhood and became best friends with a woman who lived on that street. Her family owned a very prominent furniture shop here in Salt Lake, or furniture store, and I've always assumed this piece came from that store. It was in her home, and when she died, none of her children wanted it. And so they asked me if I would like it, and I have had it for the last 23 years.
This cabinet at first glance appears to belong to the elegant tradition of the federal style, a design movement popular in the United States around 1790. The balanced proportions and the striking flame mahogany veneer suggest the classical taste that defined that era. However, a closer examination of the construction tells a different story. Inside the drawer is a label identifying the maker as the Irwin Furniture Company of Grand Rapids, Michigan. That firm operated from 1919 to 1953, placing the production of this piece around 1945 to 1950. Rather than an 18th century original, it is a 20th century revival piece inspired by earlier federal designs. Several construction details confirm this later date. The lock is machine inset into the wood, a technique typical of 20th century manufacturing. The flame mahogany veneer on the front has also been machine-cut extremely thin, almost paper-thin, which has caused slight lifting and shrinkage over time. Earlier, federal furniture used thicker hand-cut veneers that aged differently.
In an antique store today, I would expect you to pay around about $1,500 for it.
Oh, okay. All right.
If it were 18th century, the value probably in the store would probably be about $5,000 or $6,000 in a retail environment. So there's not a considerable difference, and that's really just a product of the market today.